It's the eve of Christmas Eve, which means it's the day before the Steelers play the Raiders at Acrisure Stadium. It's going to be a big game. We're still not done talking about the impact of Franco Harris because the Steelers aren't done talking about it either. They're trying to talk about the impact he has in this game because a lot of them are feeling, I think, extra motivated for it. We'll talk about that, the key for the Steelers to really win this game. Also, breaking down all NFL games this weekend and our final picks and predictions here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, joined today, as always, on our Fridays by Jenna Harner of Channel 11 WPXI in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a fun episode. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find this show on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, hit the like button on the video if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making the Locked On Steelers podcast your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp Online. BetterHelp is not a crisis line. It's self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. And they have a special offer for all of our listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. Jenna Harner, welcome back to the show. How you doing this day?
Glad to be here, Chris. Merry early Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. I think Hanukkah is still going on, or it's almost. Hanukkah's almost over. Happy Kwanzaa. Everybody, whatever holiday you're celebrating out there, I hope it's a wonderful one. And we get to celebrate Steelers football on Christmas Eve. I mean, what's not to love?
Absolutely. It's going to be an awesome weekend. But I also think it's important to still talk about Franco Harris's passing. We've talked about it a bit here, and then we've gone over the impact that Franco had on the game. Everyone knows that, but the Steelers themselves have, and not just Mike Tomlin, the Rooneys, the people like the higher ups that need to talk about him, but like the players on the roster are still talking about how he met them and what he meant to them. And it does seem like this team might be trying to win one just for Franco and on the day that he's being honored with his jersey being retired.
Oh, absolutely. And that was something when, obviously when we found out the news about it on Wednesday and we went over to the Steelers facility and we talked with Mike Tomlin and we talked with Pat Freiermuth and Cam Heyward, you could kind of sense it among all of them that they know that they have to go out there on Sunday and put on a performance and play a game worthy of something for Franco. And that was something that was so touching to see. It was really compelling. It was kind of like beautiful moments where, we're talking to Pat Freiermuth in the locker room, who obviously had a really close relationship with Franco with their Penn State connection. He was telling us, Franco and his wife, Dana, would always have Pat over for dinner. It was a really special time. They got to do so many things. And, they know they have to honor him in such an incredible way on Saturday night. And Cam Heyward, I could listen to Cam Heyward talk about stories about him and Franco all week, because it was just one of those moments that, when someone you feel really close to passes, you want to share those incredible stories. You want to hear those really, really poignant moments. And it was kind of so cool. One that really sticks out to me is, anytime Cam Heyward and his family kind of, they travel anywhere and they fly back to Pittsburgh and they're walking past the Franco Harris statue, which many of us have walked past too as we arrive back in Pittsburgh. Cam always makes it a point to tell his son, hey, that's Franco. And his son's like, oh, that's Franco. And Cam pulls up the Immaculate Reception play. And then he says, though, it's more than just a play. It's more than just Franco. It embodies the city of Pittsburgh. And when you walk by it, not only are you embracing Pittsburgh's personality, but you're embracing Franco's personality as well. And just that was one of the things that to me will just kind of stick out and just is one of those, really, really cool moments where you can just see, Franco Harris had an impact on everybody, and especially so many of those players in that locker room that called him, a mentor or a friend or just, a former Steeler that they look up to, those types of things. I think it's really special, and it is going to be really touching to see how they go out there on Saturday night. And, you know, they always put their hearts on the line, but to see it even more, I feel like you just know that there's going to be some incredible magic in the air on Saturday.
Certainly is. Franco Harris often defined what Steelers football was about: tough runner, part of the 70s, and also even away from the game, he was the example of what a Steeler was supposed to be off the field, in the community, talking about talking to people, working with people, extra nice to everybody that he meet. Everyone always talked about that. So in many ways, Franco Harris did embody what it meant to play Steelers football. But at the same time, the Steelers, I think, need to also embrace some old school Steelers football to win this game against the Raiders, the team that, Franco Harris beat with the Immaculate Reception. And that comes down to stopping the run. Josh Jacobs is the NFL's leading rusher. Mike Tomlin called him the best runner in football when he spoke on Tuesday. And Josh Jacobs has gained over 80 yards, over 90 yards, for 5 straight games. The Raiders are 4-1 in those games. And I broke down on our crossover Thursday episode. He's also been much more contributory to the Raiders' winning efforts than Davante Adams. Not to say that Davante Adams doesn't contribute, but the differences in their wins and losses are so much greater when you see Jacobs' numbers versus Adams. Adams is going to get his numbers, and Mike Tomlin said this when I asked about Davante Adams on Tuesday, but Adams is going to get his numbers. In wins, he averages 102 yards versus in losses, 82 yards, a 20-yard difference, and he's actually scored twice as much in the Raiders' losses as he has in the Raiders' wins. But when you look at Josh Jacobs' numbers when the Raiders win, 143 yards on the ground, 79 yards on the ground when they lose. That's a much bigger disparity, and he scored 8 times when they've won, only 3 times when they've lost. To me, that's the biggest sign, is that the Steelers' run defense has to show up in this game and has to dominate. Our man Q from the Locked On Raiders podcast talked about that Raiders are most likely going to be missing both their starting guards in this game, and that they're going to be down some serious potential people, while the Steelers look like they're going to be healthy in this game, including getting back Kenny Pickett. Jenna, is this a doable feat for them for this defense that has been so up and down about stopping the run when they're facing the guy who's leading the NFL in rushing yards?
I absolutely think so, because not only what they did last week in how they won against the Carolina Panthers, I mean, limiting a team to 21 rush yards is a wild feat in itself in the NFL. It's one of those things you just don't hear of it happening. But that was because Mike Tomlin challenged his players in the trenches and, basically wanted them to rise to the occasion and say, this is a blueprint for how you can stop the run. And I think that is 100% what this game is going to come down to too. But the fact that they know the task that they have here, and again, going back to honoring Franco Harris, how do you honor one of the Steeler greats? You go out there, you win those battles in the trenches. It's a war of I would say battles in the trenches. It's like a war of attrition in that way, where we always hear Mike Tomlin say mano y mano. It is man against man. It's going to be cold. It's going to be, not pleasant weather outside. Can you get past that? And can you win those battles? Because you stop that and look at what you did last week. Look at how your offense can build on that. I feel like last week's game was so complimentary that this week they know the blueprint for how to get things done. And it does start with stopping the run, especially when it's a team strength. Because like you said, Davante Adams is going to probably score a touchdown and get, I would probably assume, upward of 65 yards. It's just the way he is. He is one of, if not the best receiver in the NFL. I'd say top 5, no doubt about that. But that's going to happen. You can limit the run even more. And I think that that's absolutely what's going to be the case.
I think that's what they know they need to do. And I'll be very interested to see how they come out, because also, and Q and I talked about this as well. I do think the Steelers come out this game fired up. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they're all wearing 32 decals, if Cam Heyward's carrying Franco Harris's jersey onto the field, things like that. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if there's some sort of like thing where they come out roaring on fire and there's all this excitement, but excitement only lasts a short bit. You need to follow it through with consistent play. Can they We'll find out this weekend, but we'll talk more about this matchup in a bit here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about that matchup and all the matchups that are coming up this weekend here on the holiday weekend. But first, before we do anything else, we got to talk to you guys about Turo. Turo, of course, is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. You can browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. Book a spacious SUV or a minivan for a family road trip, or you can get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from point A to point B. Test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits into your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Ditch boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. We're also brought to you today by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which has a special message for you going into the holidays. You may be hanging out with some of your friends and putting back a few drinks, and a few starts to become a few too many. And then as the evening comes to an end, people start to head out and you think of calling for a ride. But no, you think you live nearby. You can get away. You can make it home. All right. It's no big deal. What are the odds you're going to get pulled over? And even if you are pulled over, what's the worst that's going to happen? Your insurance is going to go up. You could lose your license. You could lose your job. You could total your car, or you could kill somebody. You get the point. Don't drive drunk. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers out there right now are looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. And when we do back-to-back ad reads on the Locked On Steelers podcast, we keep it rolling here. Jenna, let's keep it rolling here. I gained some ground. Just a little itty bitty ground here. Jenna Harner still leads me by 4 games here, but she was leading by 5 last week. And the game that you fell back on was picking against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep. I know not to.
What even though they're 6-8.
Hey, I would say earlier this year, though, when I picked against the Steelers, no, that did happen. They did win. Win. Okay.
Yeah. What do you say about that, Jenna Harner? She's still up on me by 4 games here.
4.
She has 135 wins. I have 131 here in our Pick'em League for the Locked On Steelers podcast. Over 240 of you all have been participating. Thanks so much to everyone who does. Our top leaders right now, it's getting really close, Jenna. You right now are in 26th place with 135 wins. Up at second place, there are 2 people closing in on the leader with 144 wins. That's Gridiron Men and Jay Keister. But also, there's the Yap and Yinzer in first place with 146 wins. Yap and Yinzer's been holding on for a while. Now it's just a matter of can anyone catch them? We'll see. There's a lot of people pulling up, and there's a lot of season to be played still here. You think it's only 3 weeks, but I think there's also playoffs that get involved. It's going to be a wild time. But let's get to this week's picks as well. As always, we skip Thursday Night Football because this is the Friday episode. But just a reminder, most football is happening on Saturday this weekend. There's a few Christmas Day games, but the majority of football will be played before the Steelers and Raiders take each other on. Let's start off with an interesting game that does have interest to Steelers fans. 5-9 Falcons at 9-5 Ravens. Typically, I pick the Ravens here. But Lamar Jackson is out for this game still. And I actually am going to take the Falcons here. I'm gonna say that they're going to pull off an upset in Baltimore. I know the Falcons aren't a good team either, but I do think that the Ravens are going to be struggling a little bit more. They've been kind of reeling a little bit. I think this is a time when the Falcons with Cordell Patterson and Tyler Algier, that run game, they get things going and find a way to steal one in Baltimore.
I'm with you. I'm going with the Falcons, and I don't feel great about it but I do because what is happening with the Ravens? I don't know. I think if there was a chance for them to win last week, it would have been really fateful against the Browns, but instead that game was also just incredibly ugly. I don't know how I feel about both these teams, but I think the one thing with Desmond Ridder last week that gave me confidence, he did not turn the ball over. And if you're not doing that as a rookie quarterback, you put yourself in positions, as we hear my head coach Mike Tomlin always say, to have success and to be able to win games. So if you can do that, if you're Desmond Ridder and you don't turn the ball over, I think the Falcons win.
I hear you on that. Just a reminder, all of our betting odds, ends, lines, and numbers come from Bet Online. The Ravens are 6.5-point favorites, so I think we got a lot of space there, Jenna, if we were to gamble on this game. But let's keep it rolling. We got the Lions at the Panthers. Lions 7-7, Panthers 5-9. Bet Online has the Lions as 2.5-point favorites. I'll take that and the points in this situation. The Lions are playing some very good football of late. The Panthers are not, and I think you're going to see this Lions team, I think, run all over the Panthers.
The potential playoff Detroit Lions.
Crazy.
What is
crazy
happening in this
Never
world?
in my life.
I love it, though. I'm here for it. I love it. I kind of love what they're doing. I love how they're kind of, kicking butt and taking names, saying that in a nice way. And I like what they've been putting together lately. I love that win that they had against the Jets. And I think that it continues this week against a very weak Carolina team, especially what we saw last week in the run game. Carolina's run defense cannot hold up. I think DeAndre Swift has himself a day.
Same here. Bills on the road at the Bears. Bills are 9-point favorites on Bet Online. I'm going with the Bills. You can keep the points. I'm taking. I'll take the points. Give me everything. The Bills are winning this by more than 10.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know that weather is supposed to be impactful just in the sense of I feel like every game in the Midwest / a little East is going to be negative wind chills. I think this one's supposed to be the coldest in Chicago. Doesn't matter. I think the Bills win. The Bills win handily in this one.
Now, this is one that I've been back and forth on because the 5-9 Saints are at the 6-8 Browns. Deshaun Watson has not looked good yet for the Browns. Bet Online is actually interesting with the numbers here. Vegas has the Browns as 3-point favorites, but that's typically the number that you get 3 points for being the home team. So this means they kind of see them as dead even. I've been going back and forth, but I'm taking the Saints. I think that they're gonna have some resilience to their game. I think that they've seen some things that are pretty good. I think the Browns, they've been so up and down. I think they're just in for a fall right now. And Deshaun Watson, I think he's gonna run into some problems this game. That's why I'm taking New Orleans. But what say you?
See, I'm going with the Browns in this one, and I don't feel good about this game at all because there's so many, I feel like, this week where you go back and forth, and I'm like, and I make arguments for the Saints and then arguments for the Browns, and then I keep going back. That's how my brain operates. I'm going with Cleveland, though, only because they're at home, and I think that's going to be that little advantage that they need. I think they're definitely riding high after the way that they won last week, and just the fact that, again, Deshaun Watson didn't have to do a whole lot. I believe there was only one touchdown scored in that game, and it was a 3-yard pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones. I just think that the Browns are a slightly better team, even particularly.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. And I just think that they win this game. I don't know. This one I keep going back and forth, though.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Might be another game I picked one up on you. That's why I was saying, I thought you might go Browns. That's why I went Saints, because I'm trying to pick up ground on you strategically here as we go throughout the season. But let's keep it rolling. This is an interesting matchup. The 7-7 Seahawks at the 11-3 Chiefs. The Chiefs in this game are 10-point favorites. If I was gambling, I'd take the Seahawks because I don't think it's going to be a 10-point game. I think it's going to be single digits. I still think the Chiefs win. But as far as the gambling odds, the Chiefs were this close to get knocked off by the Texans last week. The Seahawks, we've seen how resilient they can be. We've seen how feisty they can be. Geno Smith, DK Metcalf. I think that there's some numbers that the Seahawks offense puts up in this game, but it's not going to be enough. The Chiefs get the win, but well within that 10-point range that they're being given by Bet Online.
You and I are on the same wavelength here because it's exactly how I feel about this game. If I was betting, I would choose Seattle just because to cover, because I don't believe that it's going to be as big of a point spread as it really is. But at the same time, I just think the Chiefs are a better team. And yes, the Texans scare last weekend, I think, gave everybody some heart palpitations. But I really think that, again, they have a Patrick Mahomes. That offense is just absolutely, no matter which receivers or tight end or whoever's on the field, I think Kansas City just continues to find a lot of success offensively. And they're at home too. They play so well at Arrowhead. So yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs, but this game is going to be closer. And I think this will be a fun one too, just to watch kind of these two quarterbacks and these two offenses duel it out.
I agree with you there. Now, I got to say this, Jenna. I listened to you last week, and I shouldn't have, because you told me not to pick your New York Football Giants.
I mean, it should have been defensive pass interference in the end zone at the end of the game. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's great. They won. I don't know how. Should have been a call. Should have been. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Jenna is the biggest Giants fan I know, but she also hates the Giants for how much pain they cause her. So I listened to her last week, picked the Commanders wrongly, but we both got it wrong, so it's fine. But now the 8-5-1 Giants are on the road at the Vikings. There was a bit of me that thought about not picking the Vikings because a 33-point comeback, that's ridiculous. You coming off of that, sometimes you might not have the best. But I also think the Giants aren't as good of a team to take advantage of that moment. The Vikings are going to be at home. I actually think they're going to be feeding off of that momentum, and they'll find a way to win this one at home. BetOnline has this game 1 minute at 4.5 points favoring the Vikings. So I'm taking the Vikings, and I'll even take the points there. I think they win by a little bit more than a field goal.
I see the Giants defense gave me hope last weekend. They gave me hope. I'm not picking them. No. I'm not. Is that not the most me reaction of all?
They gave me hope. I'm not picking them, but they gave me hope.
There's that glimmer of hope. The ornament stays where it is on the tree. It's on the side. It was a really good win. I enjoyed that. I think they're still in the wild card spotlight. It's all right. The Vikings to me, I mean, when you can pull off the greatest comeback in NFL history, you are riding hot on momentum. Kirk Cousins is going to make some Kirk Cousins mistakes, but I mean, you can't count them out. And yes, it was the Colts, but that offense to me has a little more than the Giants offensively. Saquon's been playing pretty well, but Daniel Jones still just kind of gives me heart palpitations. And this is my fan speaking. But yeah, I'm going with the Vikings, but this will be a fun battle. And I think if the Giants defense can get to Kirk Cousins and make him kind of do what they did to Taylor Heineke and force him to do things he doesn't entirely want to do, then it's a close game. Still think the Vikings win.
I hear you on that. This is an interesting matchup because of the betting lines here. The 10-4 Bengals visit the 7-7 Patriots. Bengals on a 6-game win streak, but BetOnline has them as only 3-point favorites over the 7-7 Patriots, who just had one of the worst losses you will see in a while with the way they literally threw away the game against the Raiders the last week. I'm going with the Bengals here, but something about that betting line gave me pause, and it might be because that Vegas is concerned that the Patriots run game could take over and minimize what the Bengals like to do. I'm still taking the Bengals, but that's something to keep an eye on for all you bettors out there.
Yeah, I'm with you. At this point, it feels like the AFC North is the Bengals division to lose, just with the way that they've been playing and winning 6 in a row. I just think, too, psychologically, if you're the Patriots, they are going to make sure they're on their, P's and Q's, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. They are not making any mental mistakes in this, because I do not even want to know, if I was Jacoby Myers, what on earth that conversation with Bill Belichick was like. Or did he just do the whole, dad's so disappointed in you, he won't even look at you, he won't even speak to you thing. That's how I feel like that went. So the Patriots, in terms of their execution, is going to be crisp. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be the best fundamental football they've ever played. I just think the Bengals are a better team here, and that's why I'm going with Cincy. But yeah, that line is really intriguing too, and I think it's going to be a closer game than people expect.
I hear you on that. Let's keep it rolling here. Texans at Titans. Listen, the Titans have been reeling, but they're going to beat the Texans. They have to. If they don't, it's a disaster in Tennessee.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Houston has 1 win, 1 tie, and 12 losses. Tennessee is still fighting for their playoff lives. That division somehow, some way, still alive. And I think that they're going to be able to win this one. They should.
Also, the Titans are only favored 3 points in that game. So maybe there's a little bit of pause there. But again, I think the Titans win that one. Let's go to Commanders-Niners. Commanders 7-6-1. Trying to hang in there for a playoff spot there. The Niners, though, at 10-4, they've clinched their division, and Brock Purdy has been unstoppable since he's taken over as the starting quarterback. The Niners coming to this game as 7-point favorites. I feel comfortable with that. I think they run the ball, they do what they do, and they beat the Commanders in this game.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Niners are arguably not arguably. I think the Niners are one of the best teams in the NFC, but I think that they can hang if you're asking me, hey, would we potentially see, and never how things shake out, but could they hang with the Eagles if that's the NFC Championship? I'd be like, heck yeah, I 100% think that defense has been playing lights out. Nick Bosa is leading everybody in sacks by a mile, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, or if I just, my Christmas brain is already on. But I think that defense is great. And then if you have Brock Purdy finding George Kittle, my goodness, what else do you need?
No, I feel you. That's going to be a big thing there. Can they keep that? Can they keep that up? And if they ride this wave to the playoffs, how dangerous could that team be with the way that they're built? Let's go to a big game though. The 13-1 Eagles at the 10-4 Cowboys. The Cowboys, of course, they're coming. They're way behind the Eagles right now. They're 3 games back with 3 games to go. But no Jalen Hurts for this game. It's Gardner Minshew time. And that's why I'm taking the Cowboys. Looking at BetOnline's numbers, the Cowboys are 5-point favorites. I think that's a nice, comfy spot to have them. I'll take them and the points. I think that the Eagles, they're still a good football team. I think they'll still be a better football team when these teams probably meet again in the playoffs. But in this game, the Cowboys got them.
See, this is so interesting to me. I go back and forth. It's the Eagles defense for me. Yes, the Cowboys defense is also phenomenal. But, I mean, we go back to, what was that, week 8 with the Steelers? Yep. Week 9? No, it was 9 was about week 8. I just watching that defense, Javon Hargrave and himself, I'm like, dude, you are unreal to watch. So I like the Eagles. I don't entirely know how I mean, Gardner Minshew is just going to be there to manage the game. He's just going to be that exactly game manager quarterback. They're going to say, look, we don't need you to go do too much. We don't need you to go play hero ball. Do what you're supposed to do. Play in the systems. It's going to be close, but I don't like the way Jacksonville's been fun to watch too. So that's a whole other thing with what they did to the Cowboys. But I think the Cowboys have some more weaknesses than people realize. And I think the Eagles defense can exploit it. Looking
at the Christmas Day games, Packers, Dolphins are at home. I think they kind of needed that. They almost took the Bills last week. I'm going to take them this week, 3.5 points, but I'm a little worried that they might be a little tired out after such a big division match on the road that they fell short in. The Packers aren't a very good team this year, but they still can catch you if you're sleeping.
Yeah, I'm going with Miami in this one too. I just think that they know what's at stake here and they need to keep winning because that whole AFC East, like anybody can pretty much make it into the playoffs now. It's just insane to kind of see all the ripple effects that it's going to have the next 3 weeks left, 3 games. Yeah, that's not about right. Yeah, 3 games. So I think they know if we keep winning, they'll be able to do a lot of things. I think also they played the Bills really hard. That game was so fun to watch and so intriguing. And I think there's a lot of good things from Miami that they've displayed. I think that continues.
Next game, who cares? It's the 4-10 Broncos at the 4-10 Rams. Jenna, coin. Going with the Broncos. There you go.
That's me. I'm right there with you. That's a coin flip. They're both 4-10. Yeah, I'm going with terrible. Denver because Denver has some semblance. Well, actually, Denver has defense.
The defense is why I think that they can win this game. And Baker Mayfield being there for the Rams. We saw that was a 1-week thing the way that they played last week. So I'm going with them. I'm going with the Broncos. Like you. I don't think that that's too much. BetOnline. What are the odds there? 2.5 points favoring the Broncos. Meh. Last games here before we get to Steelers Raiders. 6-8 Buccaneers at 4-10 Cardinals. I'm taking the Bucs because the Cardinals are just too hurt up at the quarterback position, while the Buccaneers still have that defense. BetOnline has this game at -9 for the Buccaneers. That's a lot of points, but I'll still take them. I'll still take them and the points.
Ooh, that feels like a lot of points. I would take the Cardinals to cover just because 9.5 from the Bucs feels like a lot. But it could also be one of those games where it's like the Bucs are ahead by a touchdown, a little more than a touchdown and a field goal. So I both of these teams to me are not great football teams, but the Bucs still have a lot to fight for in this one. Cardinals have already been eliminated, and I think that they get it done.
And finally, Chargers at Colts. Chargers 4.5 points favorites is 8-6. Need to win to kind of keep their pace to get in the playoffs. They're in a good spot though. I'm taking the Chargers. The Colts, I think after that deflating 33-point comeback that they allowed to the Vikings, I think that they're toast.
Yeah, it's really, really, really hard to come back from that. It's also really, really, really hard to come back from that with 3 games left in the season too. Yeah, this needs to be a game the Chargers win to stay alive in the playoff race, and I think they do it.
Absolutely. Steelers Raiders coming up right after this. But first, we got to talk to you guys about betonline.net. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information. Just like you found all the lines for this game, there's lines for every game in all sports that BetOnline has. That's NBA, NFL, NHL, college sports, everything you can imagine right there on BetOnline. They also have plenty of podcasts just like this one that break things down and get you all the betting stats and sports information you need. So go to BetOnline right now, your continued source for all your sports wagering information. They have live betting, playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action when you visit BetOnline, where the game starts. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm Chris Carter here with Jenna Harner, breaking things down on Steelers Raiders. Okay, it's time for us to pick Steelers Raiders here. As I've said before, I guess I've made my pick no secret. I was going to pick the Raiders in this game. I just saw Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams as a dual threat with a good veteran quarterback like Derek Carr. I just think that threat to the Steelers posed too much of a balanced attack that was going to be a problem for them to deal with this year. I think the defense, if you're pass happy, they can limit you that way. If you're run happy, they can limit you that way. But both, they've struggled with dealing with teams that can do both this year. But I think that with the passing of Franco Harris, this team's going to be locked in. Also, the problems and the injuries that have been had on the offensive line of the Raiders, I think, are going to put Derek Carr in some really tough situations. To me, I think this is going to be a game that Cam Heyward and Larry Ogunjobi specifically start to take over interior pressure. They don't stop Josh Jacobs. He doesn't get, he still gets like 80-ish yards or so. But again, that 80, he has 79 yards per game in the Raiders' losses. To me, that's the sign that you need is like, hey, keep him to that 80-yard mark. The rest will take care of itself. That, to me, is the key to victory. The Steelers win there, get after Derek Carr, force a couple turnovers from sacks or rushed throws that Minkah Fitzpatrick or somebody takes advantage of, and then Kenny Pickett come in, manage the game, offensive line, get the push, get Najee Harris the space to win, let him and Jaylen Warren just work that 1-2 punch, and if Kenny Pickett protects the football and hits on a couple big plays, I think this plays right into the Steelers' hands to get a big win at home on Christmas Eve.
I'm exactly with you on that. I think the Steelers win just because of the emotion and everything in this game, but also they know the blueprint. They know what needs to happen, exactly like you just said, but the offensive line needs to win. Kenny Pickett does not have to come back from his second concussion and do too much, feel like he has to, prove himself and hit all these deep balls. He just needs to play smart the way that we've seen from him as he's kind of progressed throughout his starts since he was put into the game. Since he was put in against the Jets. Holy smokes, that feels like forever ago.
It does.
I just think they can lean on the run game because it's been working, and we saw what they've been able to do the last couple weeks, but especially last week, getting Najee, letting him eat. Same thing with Jaylen Warren. I think we're going to continue to see a lot of that. And then defensively, I'm with you. We saw, I think it was at least 2 or 3 times where the ref blew the whistle right before Alex Highsmith ripped the ball out. There was a couple almost turnovers, Steelers just that they didn't fall their way. And I think that there's just going to be 1 or 2 of those in this game that absolutely do fall their way. So I'm going the Steelers in this one. I'm picking them to win 27-17. It's not going to feel as close as, that score isn't entirely close, but it's not going to feel that way. I think the Steelers come out of the gates with a lot of emotion. They set the tone early, and they keep it going for the full 60.
I'm going Steelers 27-16. I think that they get a few more points in this one. I think the offense gets a little bit more of a push, and that's a big help to it. Also, the Steelers are 2.5-point favorites, so both of us would also just have them winning straight up and with the 2.5 points that they get there. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be an interesting one. Both of us will be there at Acrisure Stadium Saturday. Let us know if you'll be there. It's supposed to be cold, so if you're headed out, bundle up. It's going to be a cold one. We'll be nice and toasty in the press box. But everyone, we hope that you have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa to everyone who celebrates around these holidays. We hope that you have a happy weekend. And Steelers fans, have a happy Saturday, and we'll get back at you Saturday night, Sunday morning, Christmas Day. You'll have a Christmas Day episode. I will be getting y'all some initial coverage of the game and everything like that. So don't worry about that. We'll have that episode. But then, of course, we'll also have a Monday episode coming back out of the weekend, breaking things down and getting you ready for the next week. Jenna, thanks so much for joining us here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let people know they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Well, thank you so much as always for having me, Kristen. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa to everybody who celebrates. I hope everybody has a wonderful time with their family, friends, loved ones, any and all the above, themselves, their dogs, their cats, their pets, all of those things. But you can find me on Twitter at Jenna Harner11, Instagram, Jenna_Harner, and on WPXI. Definitely tune in. I know a lot of people aren't really watching a ton of TV on Christmas Day, but record Christmas morning. I don't exactly know the times. I apologize. But if you're in Pittsburgh and you get channel 11, we have two really, really, really incredible and amazing specials. One, it was supposed to be for the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. Now we are kind of combining it with just honoring the life of Franco Harris as well, and just all of the Immaculate Reception did for the Steelers. Definitely tune in for that. And then a special on the life and legacy of Roberto Clemente, as it's been 50 years since he left this world as well. So definitely tune in for all of that and check on our website. There's some really, really awesome stories that were really cool and an honor to tell and to put together.
Absolutely. Check out all the great work they do at Channel 11. Thanks so much for joining us here on Fridays. Jenna, always a pleasure to have you here. I'm Chris Carter, your host. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette covering all things Pitt athletics. You can also check out this show, the Locked On Steelers podcast, on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you see this video on YouTube, like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making the Locked On Steelers podcast your first listen every day. Happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you after the game Saturday night, Christmas Eve.